Jonathan Kuminga's future in the NBA is becoming one of the most talked about storylines of the offseason, and Golden State Warriors fans have every reason to follow it closely. The former Warriors forward, who departed from the organization after the two sides could not reach a contract agreement, is now being linked to multiple teams, including two that play in the same Pacific Division as Golden State. That means the Warriors could be seeing Kuminga 4 times per year if he lands with the wrong squad. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes. But the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do. And honestly, the best way to back this content up, because every single like pushes us further. So hit it now. The situation is proving to be more complicated than many anticipated. Kuminga had hoped to land a substantial deal in the open market, but the reality of his financial options has become increasingly sobering. Two of the most frequently mentioned suitors, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Sacramento Kings, are both facing significant cap restrictions that make a major contract offer very difficult. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, the Sacramento Kings have maintained a real level of interest in Kuminga throughout the offseason. However, the Kings are reportedly hesitant to pursue him via a sign-in trade, which would be the mechanism needed to give him anything close to a significant long-term deal. Without that route, the best Sacramento could realistically offer is a veteran minimum contract. And according to Slater's reporting, Kuminga's camp has not been interested in accepting that kind of deal. That leaves Kuminga in a difficult position. His path to a meaningful payday runs almost entirely through the Atlanta Hawks agreeing to facilitate a sign-in trade. The Hawks hold his rights, meaning any team that wants to give him more money than he could earn on his own, specifically more than the taxpayer mid-level exception of around $6.1 million, would need to work a deal through Atlanta. The problem is that the Hawks have little motivation to cooperate unless they receive something valuable in return. The financial mechanics of the situation are working against Kuminga at every turn. Teams that acquire a player via sign-in trade are immediately hard-capped at the first apron of the salary cap. That restriction eliminates some of the most interested parties right away. The Cleveland Cavaliers, for example, are expected to be pushed over the first apron threshold after signing James Harden. The Minnesota Timberwolves are already beyond that level. Both teams are widely believed to have genuine interest in Kuminga, but the numbers simply do not add up under current framework. The Lakers appear to be the most realistic landing spot for Kuminga among the Pacific Division rivals. Los Angeles has already handed out veteran minimum deals to wings Zaire Williams and Matisse Thybulle, but there's a strong belief around the league that the team would eagerly add Kuminga at that same price point. A player of Kuminga's athleticism and physical tools would represent exceptional value on a minimum contract, and the Lakers would almost certainly find a meaningful role for him, potentially even a starting spot given their wing depth questions. The Kings present a different dynamic. Sacramento actually has a greater offensive need than the Lakers entering the season, but their forward depth at the starter level is arguably more settled. De'Aaron Hunter and Keegan Murray occupy those forward positions, leaving less of a clear opening for Kuminga to step into a featured role right away. That context makes the Kings' offer of a veteran minimum feel even more like an afterthought than a serious pursuit. While all of this is unfolding around Kuminga, the Warriors have not been standing still. Golden State addressed one of the core issues exposed by the Kuminga situation, the need for versatile, long-armed wings, by selecting Yaxel Lendeborg in the recent NBA draft. Lendeborg has been described by analysts as a fundamentally different kind of prospect from Kuminga, where Kuminga's developmental path was defined by raw athleticism and offensive upside with defensive inconsistencies. Lendeborg is viewed as a more polished two-way player with elite defensive instincts and a work ethic that translates immediately to a team setting. The Warriors' decision to go in a different direction with their draft pick suggests the front office made a deliberate choice to address the shortcomings that the Kuminga experience highlighted. Whether that means the team has truly learned from those years of development or simply got lucky identifying the right prospect remains to be seen. What is certain is that the Kuminga saga is not over yet. Somewhere between the taxpayer mid-level exception and the veteran minimum floor, there may be a salary figure that finally brings his free agency to a close. Perhaps one team decides he is worth a short-term deal in that range to see what he can do when healthy and motivated. Perhaps the Hawks eventually decide there is a deal worth taking to move on cleanly. Either way, the Warriors will be watching, because if Kuminga lands in the Pacific Division and rediscovers his best form, the team that let him walk could be reminded of that decision 4 times every single season. The Golden State Warriors have nearly completed their off-season roster construction, but 2 open spots remain on standard contracts, and the front office has been linked to a pair of veteran players who could fill at least one of them. The names in question are Georges Niang and Kelly Olynyk, 2 experienced big men who bring shooting and passing ability to any lineup. The question is which one makes more sense for Golden State heading into the 2026-27 season. Reporter Jake Fisher confirmed in a recent Bleacher Report broadcast that the Warriors still have genuine interest in both players. In theory, the team could sign both if it wanted to fill both remaining standard slots simultaneously. However, the expectation around the league is that Golden State is likely reserving at least one of those spots for a backup point guard. Brandon Williams and L.J. Cryer, currently on a 2-way deal, are among the names being discussed to address the ball-handling depth behind Stephen Curry. That context means the Warriors will likely have to make a choice between Niang and Olynyk rather than adding both. Looking at the case for Georges Niang first, the Warriors' depth chart at the forward position is notably thin. The current roster lists only 3 healthy players on standard contracts who primarily play forward: Draymond Green, Yaxel Lendeborg, and Guay Santos. Jimmy Butler is also technically on the books but has been sidelined with an ACL injury, and Moses Moody is working through a knee issue. That leaves a situation where one bad night or a scheduled rest day for any of those 3 active forwards could leave head coach Steve Kerr scrambling for options. Niang is a 6'8" stretch forward who has built his career on floor spacing and smart decision-making. When healthy, he is one of the better 3-point shooting big men available outside the top of the market. In his most recent fully healthy season, in 2024-25, Niang connected on over 40% of his 3-point attempts, a figure that would translate very well into Golden State's motion offense. His passing instincts also make him a credible fit alongside ball handlers in the Warriors system. The concern with Niang is straightforward. He missed the entire 2025-26 season with a serious foot injury. That kind of extended absence at age 33 raises legitimate questions about durability going forward. To be fair, Niang's track record before this injury was exceptional. Over a 5-year stretch prior to last season, he missed a combined total of only 13 games. If his foot is fully healed, history suggests he would quickly return to being a reliable presence in the rotation. Now, for Kelly Olynyk. On the surface, any team choosing between a 4th forward and a 4th center should almost always take the forward. You need 2 forwards on the court at all times, but only 1 center. However, the Warriors are not a typical team when it comes to center depth, and that changes the analysis significantly. Kristaps Porzingis has missed more than half of his team's games over each of the past 2 seasons due to a combination of injuries and illness. Al Horford is 40 years old and played in just 45 games last season, sitting out both legs of every back-to-back on the schedule. Charles Bassey is only 25, but has a documented history of knee problems. In that environment, the Warriors may benefit more than almost any team in the league from carrying a 4th center who can absorb meaningful minutes when the other 3 cannot go. Olynyk fits that role in ways that most backup centers do not. He stands 7 feet tall, but shoots 36.9% from 3-point range for his career, an unusual combination that allows him to play alongside Porzingis or Horford in 2-center lineups without clogging the spacing. He also averages 2.4 assists per game for a player at his position, giving him genuine playmaking credibility from the high post. Last season with San Antonio, he averaged just 3.2 points in 42 games, but that was as a deep reserve behind Victor Wembanyama and Luke Kornet, 2 players who left no room for rotation minutes. It is difficult to evaluate his true current level from such a limited sample. When weighing the 2 options side by side, the decision is genuinely close. Both players shoot well from 3, both make smart passes, and both tend to struggle on the defensive end against athletic opponents. The tiebreaker comes down to recent performance metrics. In 2024-25, Olynyk posted better numbers in box plus-minus, value over replacement player, and net rating impact than Young did in his last active season. Over the course of their respective careers, Olynyk has generally been the more impactful player by advanced statistical measures. Add in the unique injury fragility of the Warriors' center depth, and Olynyk edges ahead as the better fit for Golden State's specific situation right now. The Warriors need someone who can genuinely replace Porzingis or Horford for stretches, not just a stopgap, and Olynyk's skill set makes that possible in a way that few veteran centers could match. The biggest trade story of the NBA offseason belongs to the Boston Celtics, and not in a way that flatters them. Jaylen Brown, the reigning Finals MVP and one of the best two-way wings in the league, was moved to the Philadelphia 76ers in a deal that stunned the basketball world. What the Celtics received in return: Paul George, 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, looked underwhelming the moment the trade was announced. Now, new reporting has revealed the contrast between what Boston accepted from Philadelphia and what they initially demanded from the Golden State Warriors, making the whole situation look considerably worse for the Celtics. According to ESPN's Shams Charania, the Warriors and Celtics held serious discussions about a potential Brown trade at 2 separate moments: at the midseason trade deadline and again in the weeks surrounding June's NBA draft. Those conversations never turned into a deal because Boston's asking price was steep. The Warriors were asked to surrender approximately 4 first-round draft picks as the centerpiece of any package. Golden State declined to meet that demand, and negotiations broke down. The Warriors' refusal to match that price is understandable in context. Any package going to Boston would have needed to include Jimmy Butler's contract. Butler, who signed with the Warriors as a high-profile addition, has been dealing with an ACL injury that sidelined him for much of last season. Sending an injured 6-time All-Star on a significant contract to a trading partner while also giving up 4 first-round picks represents an enormous risk, arguably too large a risk for any front office to accept without pushing back hard. And yet, the question that lingers is why neither team made any real attempt to find middle ground. From the Warriors' side of things, there was presumably a number between 0 and 4 first-round picks that could have served as a reasonable counteroffer, something that acknowledged Boston's leverage without fully capitulating to their maximum demand. Golden State never appeared to make that kind of creative proposal, at least based on reporting. From the Celtics' perspective, after talks with the Warriors stalled, there seems to have been no effort to return to San Francisco with a revised, lower asking price before ultimately accepting the 76ers' offer. What makes this failure to reconnect so baffling is the gap between what Boston demanded from Golden State and what they ultimately settled for from Philadelphia. If the Celtics believed Brown was worth 4 Warriors first-rounders, a premium price even by superstar trade standards, then accepting Paul George plus 4 total picks from the 76ers represented a dramatic step down in their own valuation. The difference between Butler's injury situation and George's age and contract were real factors, but they do not logically explain a gap that large in asking price. The fallout from this sequence of events has defined the off-season storylines on the East Coast and beyond. Philadelphia landed Brown and then signed LeBron James in free agency, a stunning combination that has elevated the 76ers into immediate championship contention on paper. Boston, meanwhile, has weakened its core dramatically, raising genuine questions about whether the Celtics can remain a title threat without the player who was central to their most recent championship run. For the Warriors, the consequences are different but significant in their own way. Golden State enters a new season running back a roster that failed to reach the playoffs the previous year. The addition of LeBron to a divisional rival in the broader Western Conference landscape adds more pressure to a Warriors core that is running short on time to compete at the highest level. Stephen Curry is not getting younger, and each offseason that passes without a meaningful upgrade to the roster is another step toward the end of the championship window. The real damage may be less about any single missed opportunity and more about what this offseason reveals about the league's new power structure. The 76ers were aggressive and creative. The Celtics, despite holding a tremendous asset, found themselves outmaneuvered by a team that knew what it wanted and moved decisively. And the Warriors, who had a realistic path to acquiring a Finals MVP, walked away because a gap existed between asking price and offer that neither side bothered to bridge. It is fair to wonder whether the recent history between Golden State and Boston, two teams that face each other in the NBA Finals, created an atmosphere of stubbornness that got in the way of smart business. Championship rivalries can breed pride that does not always serve organizational interests. Whatever the reason, the Warriors and Celtics each find themselves further from the top of the league than they were a year ago, while Philadelphia has emerged as the off-season's clearest winner.